Hi everyone, I'm Stu Hirst. Welcome to the Hypocrite CISO. Huge thanks for having me back at this event. I've been here a number of times over the years, and yeah, really enjoy talking at these great events with awesome speaker lineups. For those that haven't seen me before, the usual kind of meme disclaimers. Tend to put quite a few of those in my talks as we go. I don't feel that talks need to be dry or dull. I try and liven them up as best I can, introduce a little bit of humor. Security jobs are difficult enough at the best of times, really. So let's have a little bit of fun, and hopefully I can share some learnings which are of value. I've been around the block a little bit now, a number of tech organizations. I would say some of those roles that you see on the screen here have been fantastic successes, and some not so for varying reasons. I think it's okay to be really honest about the times you fail, and it's okay to talk about it publicly. One thing that's happened at all of these places without fail has been that I've learned immense amounts from the people that I've worked around. I suppose I've learned as much about what not to do as much as what to do. And I also feel that I've seen pretty much everything now, from major company successes like buyouts, IPOs, navigating through mergers, dealing with an immense amount of internal politics, the joys of clashing opinions and personalities. And I've been the only security person at a business. I've been in teams of 400 to 500 people in regulated and unregulated businesses. So I feel like I've gained a lot of experience. So here's the generic talk outline slide. Why the Hypocrite CISO as a talk title? I came up with this a little while ago, and I wanted to explore it a little bit more. I'm well over a year now into my first official CISO role as the CISO here at Trustpilot, and it's been an immense learning curve in all sorts of ways, and I'll try and describe some of those in the talk today. I want to try and share what the journey's been like and what you might expect if you're moving into that kind of role. I would say one thing that's jumped out hugely is how much I've had to change my mind. Changing my mind from what I thought previously, but also changing my mind as I've progressed through the role in general. So in a sense, I'm a hypocrite, as I'm now doing things I would have previously thought differently of, and you know what, it's okay. It's not about being right or wrong, it's about adapting, learning, and I'm perfectly fine with that now. I'm happy to share these stories. So let's just remind ourselves, as if we really needed reminding, security is really hard. It just is. We have hundreds of things to think about, from cloud, if you're dealing with cloud, to infrastructure, endpoints, SaaS, incidents, code, audit, compliance, legal, you name it, right? It's the most rewarding yet toughest thing I've ever worked in. So I don't think we should sugarcoat it all the time. It can be a tough old shift sometimes working in security. Lots of problems to solve and lots of conflicting priorities. So let's not lose sight of the immense job we do in trying circumstances. This is a slide that I use to teach areas of the business here at Trustpilot, a little bit about what security does. I often feel that it's misunderstood, not through anybody's fault, or sometimes I get the impression people think we're just an extension of an infrastructure team or an ops team. And sure, we have inputs to those as well, obviously, but we cover such vast amounts of areas of the business. And this isn't an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but as you can see, covers a huge amount of things, all of which I'm technically accountable for as the CISO here. And I could have added another 10, 15, 20 things there, but it gives people an understanding of just how many things we do get involved in. So look, next time you see a CISO at an event, or frankly anybody in security, give them a hug or a sympathetic nod. It's a staggering amount of responsibility which keeps us up at night. Of course, is our amazing teams that we feel the real pain of these areas. So they're the real heroes in all this. So shout out to my team especially. So yeah, joined over a year ago now. What did I what did I find when I joined? The first 3 months were really just an exercise in discovering everything about the business, what's currently happening and what's not. I know it's a bit of a cliche about joining businesses and talking to people, but that's really what I did. If I had any advice to a new CISO, or indeed any security person, spend your first weeks and months just speaking to people. You might be able to pick off some low-hanging fruit or make some small changes, but if you steam in without understanding what's going on, and more importantly, what's already in flight or been tried before and failed, it'll just upset people. I found some areas that came up smelling of roses, and absolutely to their credit, lots of great work had been done, lots of good things in play, some great stuff already embedded and being well looked after. And then I found a few fires. Something is always on fire in security. Big shout out to Caleb Seamer, Robin Hood, who I heard on a podcast just this week, articulate this superbly. Sometimes you've just got to accept that some things will be on fire and you let them burn whilst you address other things. I thought that was a really brave thing to say, and something that resonated with me. But the overriding thing I found in these opening months were an absolute stack of opportunities, challenges, but opportunities all the same. So one of the first things I sort of felt was missing was the why. Why are we doing certain pieces of work over others? What are those decisions being based on? That's sort of what I felt was missing. So I decided to construct a fairly basic risk framework. This is very, very high level, what you can see on screen just now, but it stayed with me for over a year and not really changed. I split it into 5 areas, which I considered the major risks to the business. And then within those 5 areas are a number of lower level risks, which I've tried to rate based on potential impact. It's not an exact science, and I'm still learning a lot about how to measure risk as I go along. But this, even just visually, gave me areas to go and explore and understand current posture. And once I did that, I could more easily see where gaps were and what needed addressing. This has made everything from hiring to budgeting to roadmap planning much easier, because I now have some structure in place. Now we're a tech company, right? We might not have risk teams of hundreds of people, and we'll mature this over time. This doesn't go to super granular levels of risk, and it may do over time. But this was an awesome start, and this is what I felt was missing. And when I joined, there were no real teams to speak of. We had great security knowledge and talent in areas such as IT ops, SRE, engineering, but my main focus so far has been understanding what needed to be built and how to go about doing it. So I formed the security function into 4 distinct pillars, covering cloud, which is not just sort of AWS and GCP, but this includes all of our SaaS platforms, of which are ever growing in companies. AppSec, so application security or product security, however you want to term it, SecOps, and then risk compliance, which also encompasses kind of all of the third-party side of things as well. So I felt like this was the best structure to address those risks that I mentioned in the previous slide. You know, what do I need to form as teams to start chipping away at some of those? So this has given me real clarity on hiring and on roadmaps. But how, this was a question I asked myself, how do you know if you have enough people in those pillars or whether you're scaling it appropriately? It can't just be guesswork. So what I did was very basic. For each of the pillars, I listed what I thought was a reasonable list of responsibilities that a super mature team would be covering in the industry I work in, and for the kind of DevSecOps environments that I find myself in. I then simply state whether we're currently doing those things or whether we're mature at them. So if we are doing them, what level of maturity we might be. And for each of those pillars, it's given me a lot to think about. You might find that you're not very mature at things that even if you think you're doing them, and you're almost certainly not addressing numerous areas unless you're somewhere exceptionally mature. So that was what I did for each of the pillars, and not rocket science, and it didn't take days and weeks to formulate, but it's given me a real understanding of where I need to take some of these teams. No meme on this one. I couldn't find anything appropriate. But this is the first security job where I'm accountable to the board. I update them quarterly. So, I mean, what do you do when this is your first rodeo with a board of directors, right? Well, first up, I met almost all of them individually, gave them a rundown of who I am, what I'm here to do, what we're doing as a team, where it's going. That's meant that I now have an established relationship with each of those individuals, who all have their immense, backgrounds and talents. I reached out to a number of other CISOs on how they navigate this, so it's always wise to get consensus or advice. I had a good idea of structure anyway, and what I thought would be valuable to a mixed audience. So I use my simple risk framework. See, everything's coming back to that one thing. And I detail the current protections in place for each one. I then add what we've just achieved in the last quarter in reducing those. Then there's a section on what's coming next in the next quarter, plus a section on what's happening in the industry to give them a little bit of context, help them understand if the company has any changing risk priorities. One of the major things I'm learning here is really about tone and language. I know that comes up a lot around board engagement, i.e. how do I make it accessible for them all? They're all from different companies and backgrounds with different levels of technical understanding. I don't assume that they have no knowledge, but I spend a lot of my time ensuring reports are easy to understand and consume, not full of tech speak. I would say I'm still on a bit of a learning curve with metrics and what might be valuable there. Just now, I've included notable incidents to give them a view of kind of some of the things that might be happening, but it's a work in progress to show data which actually means something and shows a movement towards a goal. My advice here would be the same as anyone dealing with very senior people. They're just human beings. They want you to succeed, and they also might not have all the answers either. So, changing your mind, what a novel idea, eh? In this day and age, it seems impossible to find people who can change their views on things with more information or in differing circumstances, or at least that's what social media will have you believe. For me, I think this is super important. It's probably the crux of the talk. It's okay to change your mind frequently, frankly. It's got very little to do with being right or wrong. Landscapes and priorities change, your knowledge changes, what you care about changes. It shouldn't ever be embarrassing to look back and understand that you now think differently. It's just human nature, and it's part of progression. It's also okay for other people to have perfectly valid opinions that you don't agree or align with. That seems much more difficult these days, for the reasons I mentioned a minute ago. So my CISO journey is going to be different from yours. What I do won't be what you do. What I do today, I may not decide to do in a year or two. I would say embrace the change in yourself as you progress and get better. Pace has been an important thing I've changed my mind on. On the one hand, I've been used to doing things quickly with less friction. However, as a CISO, I've had to navigate budgets, high-level roadmaps, strategies, complexities of hiring and attrition, a host of things that will slow me down. But then on the flip side, historically, for some pieces of work, I've been exceptionally thorough and wanting to make sure something was sort of near perfect before introducing it. Not that I wanted things to be slow, but rather methodical and with consideration. There's been work as a CISO where I've had to change my mind on that approach and just get stuff done. I won't use the sweary version of that, but get stuff done. Which leads me to my next point. I've been in roles where there's been a demand for things to be perfect. That takes incredible graft and time. I haven't always disagreed with that, depending on the scenario, but as a CISO building out teams from near scratch, I'm starting to put things in place where, frankly, something is better than nothing. I'd rather at this stage get something moving and then improve it over time than take months perfecting something before rolling it out. Again, I've also learned that it's perfectly fine to change your mind on priorities. Yes, I mean, it can create confusion sometimes, so you need to be careful, but a hell of a lot goes on at companies moving at pace, so you need to be able to adapt with it. I often drop pieces of work entirely, or roadmap planning is an evolving process over a number of weeks. Obviously, in our industry, crazy things happen internally and externally, which mean we have to pivot quickly or change direction entirely. And I've become much more comfortable doing those things. There is no one size fits all for CISO roles. It's not like I've been a CISO for 20 plus years. I've worked my way to this role, and I'm now learning quickly now that I'm in it. But it's a tough role, no doubt about it. But there are some considerations for me that I take on board from things I've experienced in the industry. I've learned from every senior security person I've ever worked with, even if I didn't agree with them. First off, you need to get comfortable with knowing when to remove yourself from things. You simply don't need to be involved in everything if you have a good team around you. For example, do you need to be coding things? Haven't you got engineers for that? Didn't you employ people to do exactly that? Awesome. Get out of their way, let them do awesome things with your support and guidance. You have to be comfortable with letting go of control. And then a big one for me, and I've talked about this publicly over the years, you've really got to look after yourself. Not to preach about this too much, but CISO burnout and security burnout is real. I've seen it, I've experienced it at a lower level. Taking care of yourself physically and mentally is going to help you immensely in navigating this bonkers journey. This meme makes me laugh because for some it might insinuate the CISO is still up working, but for me it insinuates I'm still at the bar while others have gone to bed. Drink responsibly, folks. So takeaways, ironic, I used to work for Just Eat, but yeah, some takeaways from this talk, right? First off, security is hard. Let's be honest about it, transparent about it, and understand why this causes frustration across businesses and in roles. We do amazing things in trying circumstances. Kudos to all of you in this fantastic and crazy industry. Those fires that were mentioned, it's okay to let a few burn whilst you address other things. You'll need to accept that as a CISO. Almost everything starts with risk and what you need to care about. Otherwise, you'll struggle to see the wood for the trees, even the trees that are on fire. It's okay to entirely change your mind frequently and without shame. Embrace the personal journey. Perfection is hard to achieve, and it'll almost certainly slow you down. Move the needle one day at a time, and soon you'll be in a much better place. Next one's learning from absolutely everybody, even those you disagree with. It'll make you a better person. And lastly, try and have fun, right? This is a staggering way to earn a living. I feel very fortunate. Yes, it's crazy and stressful at times, but wow, I mean, we're helping change the world for the better. I really believe that. So before I leave you, the obligatory we're hiring slide, not just in security, but across the org, especially in tech and product. We're a global team, so check out our careers site or reach out to me personally if there's anything you want to know about. And if you feel like this, don't worry, I do too. Everyone's bluffing it in this mad world of ours. Have a giggle about it, and everything gets a little bit easier. And lastly, sometimes it's okay to be the old man yelling at the cloud, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Keep being awesome, everyone. Thank you as always for listening, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.